or for the pro-democracy groups, because when they vote, any government or any prime minister who sits there would have to have 376 seats, which is next to impossible under the new constitution. This is a problem that we are facing, and we have been trying to say this, and we have been trying to profess this, and we have been trying to tell people the Senate would have an upper hand in choosing the next prime minister. Obviously, as it says, sorry, oops, no, I can't go back. Oh, okay, can you go back? Yes, you can. Uh, Obviously, the permanent secretary of defense, supreme commander, and all those, the six are there, but which is okay. Um, the probabilities. This is from a media. So everybody's predicting what the probabilities are. One of the biggest concerns here is that I would rather call him the coup leader. That's what I call him. I don't call him the prime minister, because a coup leader is a coup leader, no matter how you call yourself. So the coup leader has the absolute authority to use something called Section 44. It's a power that's been bestowed to him under his own constitution, interim constitution that he drafted in 2014, which gives him absolute power to do anything he wants. The S44, as we call it, short acronym for it, the S44 can be used up until the new cabinet is formed. So he has the right, the coup leader has the right to scrap the election if he so deems it to be the way he wants to go ahead with it, until a new cabinet is formed. It's only after a new cabinet is formed the S44 cannot be used. So everything from here on until now and going forward until a cabinet is formed could be all uncertain, could be scrapped, anything could happen. I think this is, now I'll get back to my party. This is a cartoon that ran in my competitor's newspaper. I was working for Bangkok Post. This is the nation's cartoon. The military and the coup leaders are going all the way to try to scuttle any kind of opposition. We, Thai Raksa Achar Party, until we were dissolved, were the key stakeholder that could change the way the country was going to run. We were going to be the driver for any kind of democratic-led government. That cartoon shows everything. You start a race. He's sitting in a seat which is all powered up. Our legs have been chopped off. If this is from one, this is from the second one. This is somebody in a black, I guess it shows what they mean. They shoot us down. The party next to us is Pheu Thai Party's logo, which is the single largest party in the last election. And the third man standing is Future Forward Party. And it says it all. So the three were supposed to be the leading people who would drive Democratic Front. This is a spoof, online spoof of a movie. I guess you all must have watched it, called The Dictator. Those are the potential Democratic parties. So they have put logos in front of everybody. The dictator runs, shoots us first. We are down, and the last one is, if I can stand up and show you, this is what I'm talking about. So the finished run is being taken to him with the help of the 250 Senate that I just talked about. So everything is being done in order to accommodate his wishes, him winning. It sounds like very bleak, but that is a fact. And that is why when we were dissolved, we decided, so that's our party, that was our party logo earlier. This is our party logo here. Once we were dissolved, we had to keep our fight for democracy on. And we said, let us go ahead and do something. Let us do something that is different. Let us do something which helps promote democracy. And we said we will go for moving forward for democracy. ออกก้าวต่อเพื่อประชาธิปไตย basically a move to profess democracy in our own country. What we do, these are the members who are founding members. When we announced it, like, okay, let's go ahead. What we are making history in the country. As I said earlier, we are the only party in the country to be dissolved before even contesting the elections. We were the only party to be dissolved at the speed even I cannot imagine, less than a month. And we are the only group moving forward for democracy, is the only group that has been professing on stage that vote for democracy and don't vote for us because we don't have a party anymore. The thing is, our logo, Thai Raksa Chart logo, still is on the ballot paper because the ballot papers were printed before the dissolution. So anybody who votes for our party on the ballot would be considered to be a nullified vote. And that's why we go on stage and say, don't vote for us. Don't vote for us. Vote for any of the pro-democracy parties. But please vote. Please use your right. Don't sleep on your rights. What have we been pushing for? What's our agenda? In Thai, we call it ประชาธิปไตยที่กินได้ It says, directly translates into democracy that you can eat. What is democracy that you can eat? Democracy which helps people make a living. Democracy that helps people in every which way possible. Uplifts the people. That is what we call democracy tikindai. The rich in the country, in my country, have been getting richer. Today, in 2019, the Gini coefficient of my country is the highest in the world. We are the most unequal country in the world. Yes, sir. We have been rated. We were number 4 until 4 years ago. Today we are number 1. So the rich, sorry? I think it was done by, I can dig out for you. The research came out. They do it annual event. Oh, it was Credit Suisse. Credit Suisse. And we were the most unequal country in the world. So the rich love this government. The poor hate them. Why? Because the poor have been taken for a ride. It's only 4 months before election that 80 billion baht, which is close to $3 billion, was pumped into the economy. But prior to that, for the last 4 years, they were not cared for. I personally have been on campaign for the last 4 months. When I go to people, they cry. And sometimes you sit down and cry with them. I've never, as a journalist, I have worked for journalism for 23 years. I never sat down crying with people. This is the only time that you can feel the pain. You truly can feel the pain there. So yeah, that's democracy that we can eat. This is last night. I got a picture which came in last night from Sukhothai. We did a event in Sukhothai. So again, we are professing. We are going on stage. We are telling people what to do. We're not telling them vote for this party or that party because that'll be breaking the law. But we are telling them vote for democracy. Vote for democracy. Vote for democracy. So this was last night. So close to, I think, a few thousand, I guess. This was I think taken a day before our party was dissolved. Again, support base was growing for us. He realizes that. I guess you know who this is. The background is the coup leader and the prime minister. He realizes that he needs to change his way from being grumpy, from being authoritarian to being more realistic and more human touch. So he's coming out with all these campaigns to be, look more normal. So this is again another cartoon. This was when he took power. So 5 years. 5 years of his transformation. from being a military man to being, when kids do this now as a way to show that they're cute. So he's trying to. It's a transformation. It shows a transformation of the man. Again, before I'll leave some time for question and answer, the concerns. The biggest concern that we have is how are the votes going to be counted? How are the votes going to be free and fair? International monitors have not been allowed, or only just been allowed now. European Union wanted to send hundreds of people to monitor. The government did not allow that. ANFEL was just allowed, like, I think a week ago or something. Information that's been disseminated by the Election Commission has also been very erratic. Some information is correct, some is incorrect. Candidate names are wrong, candidate numbers are wrong. Quite a few confusion that we have seen in the early votings. The early vote, there are 2.6 million votes that have been put in early voting. Where will the ballot papers be kept? Will they be switched? Will the ballot boxes be stuffed with new votes, new ballot papers? How will the counting go on? Would they be red carded? There are many questions that are being raised all over. Even this morning, there was I didn't put a slide up on this. This morning there was a report which said that the military has been asking all the cadets and all its military personnel to vote for one particular party. And this is a top secret document I showed this morning to somebody. I cannot print it yet because I'm not 100% sure. It's 90% sure that the document is correct. But unless you're 100% sure, you don't want to, especially if it's a live feed. So these are concerns that are, that we have. And the military is going to do everything in its power to try to continue a hold of a grip of on the power for now. I think that's the things that we have, and this is what we are trying to say: dump the dictatorship at any cost. And this is our message to the people. We go to the people and say, dump dictatorship, cast your ballot for pro-democracy. I think that ends it. And if there's questions, please feel free to ask. I'll try to answer. The only issue is I'll be upfront. I cannot say anything that breaks the lèse majesté law, and I cannot say anything about the court judgment because I'll be in contempt of the court. Please feel free.
We'll just wait for the mic to come to you.
Thank you. I'm Tom Reckford with the Foreign Policy Discussion Group and the Malaysia-America Society. You haven't mentioned Thaksin's name, and a lot of us are waiting anxiously to see how many votes his party gets and what the military will do if he gets too many votes. How do you think Thaksin will do?
Yeah. I think the reason why I did not mention Thaksin is purely because he's not involved. He's not involved with our party. Lots of rumors, and I openly say this. I was sitting on 4 committees: the Foreign Policy Committee, the Economic Policy Committee, the Social Committee, and the Strategy Committee of my party. And meetings like this were being held. And people say that he used to call in, this, that. I swear, not a single call was made in the 4 months I was there in any of those committees. So I did not mention him. Is he a player? Possibly, yes. He is. He would be, I think. In terms of how much votes he would get, or his people he supports, or his backed, or whatever you want to call it, depends on however one puts it. Officially, there's no involvement of him in any of the parties. Officially, there's none. But parties that are sympathetic to him, in my view, would still secure a majority vote. I think we would. So the whole aim of the Democratic Front is to be able to get more than 251 seats in the 500 parliament. Now, I'm talking about 500. Remember, there's 350, 150, and 250. In the parliament, if we get 251, you have an absolute majority. Beyond that would be, so the Senate can only vote for the Prime Minister. It cannot vote on any legislations. The budget or any other things would have to be only the lower house, not the upper house. So if he arm twists, if the coup makers arm twist and are able to get themselves re-elected as a Prime Minister, we will not allow the legislation to pass through. We cannot allow that. Hopefully that answers your question. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Alok Shrivastava. I am Chief of Staff of American Hindu Coalition, which is the political action committee of the Hindu votes in USA. My question is, actually I was in Thailand 2 months back, on way to Laos, and I met people over there. So I'm not sure whether you can answer that question or not. What's the role of current king over there, in this whole election process, and who approved this process? Why the people agreed on this thing?
Which process are you talking about?
The election process, such complicated, we are truly not people can vote freely and see that truly a democratic party on it get elected, I mean, somebody must have approved this election process and all that, how this whole structure will be.
The king and the monarchy is supposed to be above politics, and they are above politics. So that answers your first question. The election is as per the constitution that was approved by the people in 2016, in August 2016, August 7th, if I remember correctly, 2016, and the bylaws that were passed, and obviously has to be countersigned by the king himself. So the constitution is the one that they tried to delay, the military tried to delay the elections. If you remember, I think, again, we lost count. If I remember, it was 5 or 6 times delay. I remember 5, but maybe 6. They just kept on delaying, and they wanted to delay it further. I was just talking earlier with Nidhi. They were looking to delay it until May, if possible, just because they wanted to prepare themselves. The economy may be growing at 3%, but the people on the ground are suffering. They wanted the people on the ground to be able to have some money so that they can come back in power. And for that, they pumped in 80 billion, close to 80 billion baht in December. The multiplier effect of that 80 billion would take usually 6 months. So they wanted to delay it until April, May. But they cannot, because if they did, then there could be a problem. It's a question that was asked to me yesterday by some journalist. I was having dinner, and I said I was one of those people who did not vote for the Constitution. But nobody knew. Everybody who voted for the Constitution did not know what they were voting for. All they wanted is just vote, get the hell out, have elections. We were not allowed to campaign. Remember I told you earlier, we were not allowed to campaign against the Constitution. Nobody was allowed to campaign against the Constitution. The military used its might to keep on telling through the mass media, through the government-held mass media, how good the Constitution was. And nobody else was allowed to say anything. So if you're brainwashing people, what do you get?
It's my understanding that in Indonesia, people are quite open about the fact that their vote can be bought by whatever candidate offers the best bling. Does that happen in Thailand?
I would be lying if I said no.
Well, they're
But-
they're quite open about it in Indonesia, I understand.
Oh, well, we are very open about it as well. And this is my journalism hat, okay? I'm just, let me wear my journalism hat. I don't know the facts on the ground here. I gave you a figure right now, 1.5 mil USD. Some party was offering some candidates, potential MPs to shift. That money was supposed to flow into the pockets of the people. But when I was a journalist, I know for sure. Okay, let's put it this way. Our arch rival prior to the military government was the Democrat Party. I can name them because it's Kunalangkorn has come out and said it himself. Kunalangkorn is the number 3 on the party in terms of hierarchy of the Democrat Party. He had come out to say that the Democrat Party in 2011 had spent more money than the Pheu Thai Party. Yes, every party spends money, depending on where you stand, which party you are in. But certain parties spend less and are able to get the policies. Thai voters, for a change, have actually now started to, in the last 10 years, look at policies. And this goes back to this gentleman's question, Kun Thaksin. That man, whatever he is, has managed to change the way people think. They want policies. You can pump money, how much ever money you want. On our stages, and this is open, we go out and say, take the money, yes. We ask people, if somebody offers money, would you take it? Thousands and thousands of people, yes, we will take it. Who would you vote for? We would vote for people who have policies. Why not? If you give me free money, why not? I'll take it. That's what people say. But they're not voting for you. The ballot papers are secret ballot. There's no way anybody can check if you voted or if you did not vote. And this is what happened in 2011. This is what is going to happen this year as well. I guarantee you.
Thanks. I'm Sean Tandon. I'm a journalist with AFP. I wanted to ask you what you think about the international reaction, what it should be. You're mentioning the electoral observers, that they've been impeded from going. But what do you think the international community's reaction should be if and when, once the election happens? Do you think recognizing the result would be a positive outcome? Do you think this is a time for criticism from the United States, from others? What should the international reaction be?
Depends on how the elections are held. It'll be too premature for me to say what the international reaction should be. If it's something which shows that there is some kind of mischief, then the reaction from US and other democratic countries should be and would be expected and should be there. But if it isn't, then they recognize the results. If it isn't, the likelihood is very high that there'll be some kind of a mischief, and that's why we say, please keep your eyes and ears open. But no, it's too immature at the moment and premature to say anything at the moment. Maybe let the elections on the 25th. I can answer your questions, but not now. But
do you think a policy of isolation of Thailand, do you think open with subsequent?
I think if there is a mischief to a degree which is unacceptable, I would hate to say it'd be sad for my country, but I think business as usual should not be the case. I'm sorry, we have had business as usual for 5 years. We have been suffering. We cannot have it anymore. There's a limit to how much business as usual can be there.
Hi. I know you said that the voice of the traditional media has been significantly stifled due to the current regime, but I was wondering if social media has had a significant impact on the current elections.
Yes, social media has been used, but everything is monitored. Everything is monitored. So when I was a candidate for the member of parliament, I had to register each and every account that I had in order to be able to use anything and everything, and they monitor it. They could disqualify you. So after the election, we were just talking, Nidhi and us, we were talking earlier. This is the only time in the history where the election commission has 2 months to announce the official results. And they would use, normally it's been a month. This is the only time that they'll have 2 months. They would use every trick in the book to be able to figure out who misused social media, who did this, who did that, to disqualify. So in case, and if we get on the winning side, these things that could be used against us. But yeah, it has had an impact, big impact, big impact. The voters are, they have the right, but as a party members, we cannot do it. We can do it to a certain degree, not to the degree that we hoped we could, but the voters are doing it. The voters are, like, I know friends who are saying, okay, vote for this and vote for that, and they're posting on social media, and they're like, everybody's like, oh yes, no, whatever. So there is, it's playing a big role.
Just to quickly follow up on that question, given the involvement of social media and voters using social media, has there been any restriction? Have you seen any direct restriction on voters using social media and their accounts being impacted in some way because they said that, you should vote for this party or not?
No, not yet. Okay. So as I said, all these things will be used going forward as a proof to disqualify or whatever they want to do. Yellow card, red card, green card, whatever they want to give, orange card, God knows. There are 3 different cards, I think. So
Thank you. Kurt Smith with the Congressional Research Service. I was wondering, based off of the diagram that you showed earlier on with the potential outcomes for whatever happens with the election, how do you expect that the military or the voters would react in any hypothetical situation? Let's just say that the party that is the people's voice for democracy wins, for example, like those who are Puatai. Do you think there would be protests? Or if not, do you think that the military would crack down? Do you think that, what I'm trying to get at, do you think either side would accept the results of the election without business as usual with coups and violence following an election this time around?
In the best interest of my country, I would hate to see any kind of violence. I really, truly don't want to see that. We have lost 15 years of protests, violence, coups, don't like the government, don't like this, don't like that. We really have 15 years gone down the drain. Countries around the region have progressed, we have regressed. I don't want to see that. But, and there's a big but there, I was just telling earlier, this is the first time since 1992 that the young generation has started to be excited about politics once again. Since 1992, they have been in hibernation. And now they're coming out. And if you even Google search any protest, any violence in the world, it's always that young generation, the 20 to 30. The 40, we think 100 times before we say, hey, let's do this, let's do that. Here are the pros, here are the cons, here this, that. The young don't think as much. So I really hope and wish that the election is not stolen from us, from the pro-democracy or whoever. If they win, okay. But if there are any indications that there was any hanky-panky and any indication that it's stolen from us, it could create a problem.
Well, I have two questions, and not very related. I just thought of a second one. Is there a communist party in Thailand? And secondly, what sort of turnout do you expect in the vote?
Ooh. I don't think there's a communist party. I don't think, no. There used to be in the past, but no.
Because they're not legal?
Yeah. Two, the turnout has been, I forgot to mention that. Thank you for asking that question. The turnout in Bangkok for the early voting, 87%.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That shows the frustration and the need for people to come out and vote. Bangkok was 87. Throughout the 87. That's the biggest turnout ever. Throughout the country, 75. It's very good.
We can only dream.
And this is because of the pent-up demand, the pent-up frustration that we have had. I think 75 is pretty low. We want 80 to 90%. Because that remaining 13, 14, 15% or 20% again could be used for ballot stuffing by people who want to win. The more the merrier for us. We have been professing this. Everywhere we go, vote. Just go. If you don't want to vote for anybody, just cross no vote. Just go and use this right. Go use it. That's what we've been professing. All because we want people to use the right.
Permitted a second question. I remember one prime minister many years ago was called Mr. ATM Machine because, well, he collected a lot of money that way. Looking back over the last 35 years, what do you think was the best government that Thailand had, and why was it good?
That's equal to my age. Just kidding. No. No. Just kidding. I think if I can go back 35, let's go back 30 years. I remember 30 years. You might consider this to be biased or anything, but I think the Thaksin administration was the best administration for the country. All because he thought about the people. He thought about the country's future, where the country should be 20 years from now, 10 years from now, how he should take the country forward. So, was it ATM? Was it anything else? No, it's more about futuristic thinking. It's about how you move yourself and how you move the country forward, how you uplift the people who need the upliftment. And not many prime ministers in the past had ever thought about it. He was the one who brought the poor in the mainstream. And that was what has made him what he is. The people are willing to die for him. Up until now, how many countries in this world can you think of where 10 years after being out of the country, people still die for him, people still vote for him? People would, if he comes out and says, vote for party A, B or C, you would see at least 100 plus seats coming to that party if he comes out openly. Not many countries or many people would be like that. You asked a question about Thaksin not being mentioned. Even if you mention, he's a figure. He's a towering figure in this political history of our country.
Thank you. Point blank, is China trying to interfere with your election and behind the scenes or under the table or anything like that?
I hope not. I hope not.
Not
We don't-
necessarily election, but somehow.
I hope not. I think China has maintained a relationship with all sides. I don't think China wants to do that, because if China is now a big player for us, for the entire region, if ever they come and do that, and if suppose they are pro or anti us, say suppose if they're pro us, pro democracy, which is unlikely, but just in case, if they're pro democracy, and if the anti democracy people or the people who are currently holding power continue to hold power, then they will antagonizing them. I don't think the Chinese would be that dumb to do it. The Chinese play a smarter game than just interfering in small things like this. They play all sides. I don't think that they will do that.
Two questions. First one is, how do you think the election and the outcome of the election impact the politics in the Southeast Asia? The second one is that, as you know, that Thailand is a treaty ally of the United States, and how do you think the outcome of the election have the impact to United States Indo-Pacific strategy? Thank you.
How does it impact the region? The region is unlikely to be impacted. The only impact would be because we are heading the ASEAN chair this year. So any impact would possibly on the ASEAN chairmanship. Apart from that, I cannot think of any other impact, because if you look at Southeast Asia is a region which has all sorts of government. You have a absolute monarchy, you have democracy, you have, no offense to my neighbor, quasi-democracy / dictatorship with Cambodia. It's a mixed bag. So I don't think any impact there. Impact on the U.S. No. U.S. has been a key player, but the administration has changed. We only hope that the new administration looks at democracy as a key pillar of any country. Will that impact? If we win or we lose? Very hard to assess. Very hard to assess at this point. I think that depends on the Americans more so than us. Any government that comes to power, be it our democracy side or the military side, if the Americans come and seek help, I think they should be able to accommodate that. More so with us, I would say. The military government has been more cozying up with the Chinese, which has been witnessed by all of us. But I don't think so. We haven't reached a point where we are breaking apart now. So it should be okay.
Maybe I missed in your presentation, what was the reason given to disqualify your political party, what was the reason for that?
Oh, you're putting me in the spotlight. The elephant in the room, as I said earlier, the reason was we had nominated the princess as a potential candidate for the prime ministership. And that was the reason we were disqualified. As far as I can say, that's the only thing I can say. But the princess. The king's older sister.
I know king is very unpopular. I was there over people, they were
that was the reason given to us for disqualification. And that's as far as I can go on that issue. Sorry, if maybe after.
Can I just pursue the issue you were mentioning earlier about the military government aligning itself quite closely with China? Do you see that as a long-term trajectory for Thailand? Do you see Thailand, I mean, there's sort of a fixation in Washington on relations with vis-a-vis China. Do you see Thailand more and more having a more closer relationship with China in the long term, or is that very much just linked to the military government?
I think close relationship with Chinese is a must. They are one of the biggest export market for us. They are the single largest tourism generator for us. But are we cozying up to that point? No, we should not. I think Thailand has maintained its status as neutral, talking to all parties. We have maintained that, and that's how we remained, free from all the Cold War era and everything else. We were pretty neutral. We should maintain that, and we tend to maintain that. That's our long-term strategy, and we'll continue doing that. The military cozying up with the Chinese is purely because the Chinese were the first to recognize them after their coup. It's you scratch my back, I scratch yours. So once a democratic government comes into power, in my view, personal view, it'll be far more balanced than it is at the moment.
I think we have time for one last question, if anybody has, or any thoughts. If not, then I would just like to thank Umesh for being here.
Thank you very much. Khop Mark.
And thank you all for coming here to listen in on these crucial elections that are happening on Sunday. Thank you all.